So you found the skeleton. How would you tell people that is you personally? How would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Kent with Bent. We're doing a third one in like just over a week. I think it's because Bent hates me.
It's because we all hate ourselves.
Yeah, there's that. Chesh is back, just like she was for last week, but not like she was for the surprise one, because we didn't even tell her about that one.
True.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to me too. I didn't know. I was left right out of the loop.
Yep, literally the only people who knew were me and Bent until right when
I
it
don't
happened.
know if I should be offended, but I'm choosing not to be.
Okay, that's probably the version that's going to be better for your long-term mental health. It's just not be offended.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, so guys, last time we actually finished CSE 201 Class 5. So now we're on to CSE 201 Class 6. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you're new, I don't know, what we do is we point out how stupid Kent is, and we drink while we do it. And so we have some drinking rules. Now, I do not actually encourage people to follow these drinking rules. I think that you should probably be careful and only play with alcohol if you are very, very confident in your ability to be safe. Because Dapper Dino Channel and my co-hosts do not accept any responsibility or liability for bodily injury, death, dismemberment of yourself or others, or damage to property, no matter how extensive that it may be a result of playing along with the Kent with Bent drinking game. Drink responsibly and at your own risk. However, for those of you who do want to play along, or who just want to play along without alcohol, you have some water, it's cool. We drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something so wrong that we have to cool our brains off lest they melt, which is pretty often. We drink whenever he gets something legitimately factually correct without it just being a quotation he's reading. He has to, on his own, get something right. That's our rarest drink trigger, but it happens every time, usually because I start to get generous as the episode wears on.
It's true.
Yeah, like I'll call it correct for like the most basic stuff. Kent will say like the sky is blue. I'm like, all right, fine, it's been a while. Like, okay, that was correct, Kent. We also drink whenever Kent Hovind references the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or their leaders, or prominent members, or their various activities in the early 20th century. That comes up surprisingly often. We also take a drink whenever Kent Hovind tells a joke that didn't land, whenever Kent Hovind tells a story that we're pretty sure it didn't happen, and also sometimes if we make a prediction, and Kent Hovind follows up on the prediction we made, we'll take a drink for that. There are also a few other ways that the audience can participate. One is, if you do happen to be a channel member, you have access to a whole bunch of emojis, including a new one. We have a brand new citation needed emoji, so any of my channel members, feel free to hit that citation needed when appropriate, or just right now to test it out.
Well, you actually got it to look pretty good. I was curious as to how you would make it look, because it's so small that it would have a hard time like showing it in a way that was readable.
It's a modified version of the NASA font, and it comes to me courtesy of Vishanti, who had that font handy, and I made a few modifications to make it a little bit more legible. Like I added the crossbar on the A, it's the biggest thing I did, and I stroked the border on that.
Well, good job to both of you. Good work.
Yes.
I was worried. I was like, how are you gonna get that in there? But hey.
Yeah. She and I, we know what we're doing. We're okay at this. So let's see. Edgelord 420 says, "Is Kentman a cryptid?" I mean, maybe. I was basing it off of the Batman. Because the what do you call it? The thumbnail is a lot like the movie poster for the Kentman, including the vertical the big block letters, Batman versus Kentman. Anyway, let's see. So if you are a member, though, you also have access to some kaiju emojis, including Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah. If you super chat for any amount and you include one of those, we will take a drink. Also, if you super chat anything to the effect that AIG are a bunch of dicks, we'll drink for that. But the tricky thing there is you have to be a little clever with it, because YouTube likes to censor a lot of the various ways that you could say that in numerous languages. So you got to be a little circumspect with it. Also, every once in a while, Godzilla or Mothra may just show up audibly and we'll take a drink. And that's one of the more random things that just kind of happens every once in a while. I think that covers all the drinking rules. Did I forget any?
Did you mention the bad jokes?
Yes.
Did you mention that didn't happen?
Yes.
Or like the shower thoughts? Okay.
And
Then
I have to do
I
my
think you
best
got
to
them all.
not. I have to do my best to not say the F word.
We get one free one.
And then everyone after is $10
Yeah,
each.
and you owe me $10.
I think I owe Dapper probably $50 at this point.
Yeah, probably. You could do what Colton did for a little while, which was just become a patron at like the $5 level for I think it was like a year or so.
I should do that. I will make a note.
All right. Well, hey, you'll be allowed into my server. It's a very fancy server.
Ooh, spicy.
We've got cake.
Oh,
Wait, there's cake in this server?
Yeah. Digital cake. But here we go. Here's Kent.
And that cake is not a lie, right?
No.
Okay.
Because I'm not GLaDOS.
Just kidding.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to continue where we left off last week, talking about the age of the Earth. We covered.
What actually Kent left off last week with was not the age of the Earth, but him complaining that not every Christian in the world agrees with him, and giving us the laundry list of every single one he could think of. It was like the entire last 20 minutes was just him complaining about other Christians by name.
He's in the same shirt. This wasn't last week. This was 5 seconds ago. And he's still not wearing a tie.
Well, the camera angle is different.
Is his desk, does it have more
I think it has more toys on it. Yeah, I don't remember this many toys.
Maybe this was later on that same day, because it's still the same shirt.
I do like the face he's making.
Yes.
Maybe he's like Doug Funny, and he just has the same shirt.
Well,
He's only got one.
Oh my gosh.
I'm also going to say that there's also the possibility that he did laundry and just happened to pick out, or okay,
he didn't
do laundry. His wife did laundry. Okay, his wife did laundry, but then he happened to pick the same shirt.
Think he knows how to do laundry?
No.
I think he knows that it goes in the machine. I think that's about all he knows, though.
Mm-hmm.
You think he could do his own laundry?
I like to think that his shirt on the back has like the tags on it for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
It might. I think Kent
he ties his own ties. That's
I think Kent could put his dirty clothes into a laundry machine and have them come out clean, but I don't think he could successfully avoid things like color leaching or staining or things like that.
Figuring out how to iron.
Right, I don't think he could iron. I do think though that if he had like soiled clothes, he could put them in a machine, have them come out not soiled, and like there you go.
I've got it. Kent Hovind is just mean skinny Santa from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's woman's work.
He's wearing red. So.
There's a whole lot about Kent Hovind that is comes across
as
that's
skinny Santa.
He is.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Without the cool beard, though.
I'm not wrong.
He needs a beard.
Yeah, he's missing the cool beard. Only redeeming factor about angry, thin Santa.
Can't wait until my beard turns white.
Me too.
Good luck.
Heard last session how it is really a critical topic. You know, this age. How old is this Earth anyway? You know. Not this particular one, but, the model. But the real one.
Oh, that was a joke that didn't land.
Well,
take a drink.
There are all kinds of scientific ways to show the Earth is not billions of years old. Like the illustration of you find a dinosaur bone, there's no date on it. Or you find coins in a box in a sunken ship. The youngest coin determines, it limits it.
Okay, so this is a weird thing that Kent Hovind does, and Eric does it too, and I'm sure Eric inherited it, where they say, okay, let's say you had a ship that sunk. You want to know when it sunk. And fortunately, there are coins on the ship. So you search through all the coins and you find the one with the latest date. Well, you know that the ship had to be around to get that coin on it on or after that day. So that limits how long ago the ship could have sunk. So the ship sinks and it has a coin with 1774. It couldn't have sunk in 1762 because how would it have had a 1774 coin on it in 1762? That's true. That's correct. The problem is that when you're trying to determine how old something is that is still around and still going, you can't simply pick some feature, declare the feature is young, therefore declare that the entire ship is young. So for instance, if you wanted to know when the ship was built, finding that coin doesn't help you at all. Similarly, Kent will point to things like, well, Niagara Falls couldn't have been eroding for millions of years, to which I say yes. That's because Niagara Falls has not existed since the beginning of the world. It's the same argument as saying, like, well, I have a zit on my nose, and it's been there for 3 weeks. Therefore, I must be 3 weeks old. Not how anything works. Old objects can get new features. That doesn't limit their age. Yeah, I know, right?
It's implausible.
Let's keep going before I get into the ship of Theseus.
Down to whatever that number is. The Bible clearly teaches about 6,000. If you add up the dates in Scripture, everybody does it.
Yeah, so it's not that clear, but like
also... check the Bible verse that says the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Yeah, so if you take everything very literally, then yes, you can come up with about 6,000 years. But most Christians don't do that and haven't done it. And this idea that this is the one correct way that you should be interpreting Genesis basically was invented in like the early 20th century. It's really not that old.
Get about 6,000. You can get Bishop Ussher's book. We've got it in the bookstore there. It's like huge. It's an excellent book. I mean, it's really thorough, more thorough than necessary, but somebody had to write that one, so somebody else could summarize it. But let's look at some scientific ways to show the Earth is simply not billions of years old. In 1999, announcements came out over newspapers all over the country that the world's top population has topped 6 billion. How do they know that? He's gonna
try and go backwards.
Yep, he's definitely gonna do that.
Yeah, like, does he realize that, considering that he didn't put any stipulations about how something like this actually works in its totality and only briefly mentioned how it kind of works when you date something, if you have like a coin, like if he had an old coin that he was just keeping as like a souvenir from Rome that he had in his car, if he had a car wreck, they could be like, well, clearly this is from this, like, some absurd,
you know, he might
200 BC.
I don't know, because here's the thing, like
coin collecting is a thing. Stamp collection is a thing. You could have like a car crash and then a stamp that's from before cars were invented, and be like, well, I guess it has to be at least the latest this old.
So the thing is, I think that the thing with Kent
almost like there's more than one factor.
I don't think he has an actual like consistent standard. I think he just uses whatever rhetorical trick he thinks is going to work. So I think if you found that, he would come up with some reason why that finding that coin in that car doesn't actually tell you much. I think he would just come up with some post hoc reason why his reasoning works for the ship but not for the car. And
well, you would theoretically be able to find a coin that was on a ship that was invented or that was stamped for before a ship of that kind was around.
Right. To be fair, though, he does say that that's the youngest the car or ship or whatever it could be. So if you had a car wreck and someone found like an ancient Roman coin from like 202,
yeah,
then it would be true that the car has to be no older than, or sorry, the car can't have crashed any sooner than 202.
Right, which is...
Or no, before 202. Couldn't have crashed before 202, that's what I meant, sorry.
Right, which makes sense, but if the only factor you're using, it gets absurd really fast if you say that, hey, this is the limit, when it's obviously not the limit because of the date of the car, or the date of the ship. Where it's like, it's not possible that the ship existed before that period.
Also,
even
by the
though
way,
the coin did.
Chat, I don't think we need to have a communism fight. Let's not have a communism fight today. My goodness. Keep it over in the paid server where I know you guys have been having communism fights. And hey, keep it up there, because it's kind of entertaining to watch every once in a while. I just stop in, I'm like, yep, communism fight's still going. Okay.
I have no idea, okay?
Oh, probably. Kent said something correct. I'm going to take a drink for saying, I have no idea.
It's a guess, but I think it's a reasonable guess, all right? 6 billion people on planet Earth. In 1985, the world's population was announced to be 5 billion.
We're going to get into this. This is going to be a thing we talk about.
In 1977, 4 billion. 1962, 3 billion. Interesting thought. Many people born in 1962 Many people born in 1930 are still alive. They're 75 years old.
It's interesting.
It has been said, I don't think there's any way to prove it, but it has
Time
been said
exists.
there could be more people alive today than there are people that are dead today. How's that for a thought? Certainly,
How's that for a THOT, Kent? Like appears in your slideshow.
That doesn't.
It's inaccurate.
Yeah, how does that? There's more people alive than have died in totality of human history.
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
I think that's what he's saying.
He's not making the argument. He's saying that people have said that. He's just putting it out there.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll put out that people have said that there's been, 70 or 80 billion people that have died, and we're at about 10% of that.
I'm going to point out that some people have said that Kent Hovind is lying on behalf of the devil.
I might be misremembering. I could be wrong. Who knows?
Look, I'm not saying Kent Hovind is possessed by Satan. I'm just saying some people have said that he's lying for the devil. Just some people have said that, so, you know. All right, here we go.
We probably could have half of the total world's population still alive. I don't know that that's true, but certainly there's a whole lot of people alive today.
Yes,
probably the best soul-winning opportunity.
I'm not sure if that's true.
Well, there are a lot of people alive. That's true.
I'm just quoting Kent. I'm not sure if that's true, but
now, so back in 1800, the world's population was 1 billion. Now, there just is no question about this. Everybody agrees about 1 billion. You can go to University of West Florida right up here and get in the library and look up population statistics in I forget where it was now in the library, but I found a book in there. I think it was by World Book.
I do not believe that Kent Hovind went to a library and found a book, and I base this on the observable fact that Kent Hovind acts like a functionally illiterate man. Just tossing that out there. I don't think he did that. I
could see him walking into a library, grabbing a book, opening it up, and being like, "This is the one," and it's like not.
I'm going to take a drink for a story that didn't happen.
He could read enough to tell what was like what the title, like the cover said, but not enough to read like the leaflet in the front.
I think what happened was someone told him about a book.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever actually even handled this book. I think someone told him about it.
I don't think Kent Hovind can read above a 3rd grade level.
I mean, he certainly can't write above a 3rd grade level. We've seen that.
Thought.
KJV get title.
KJV get title indeed. Also, remember, when you're digging outside and you dig a hole, watch out that you don't hit a high-pressure spaghetti deposit, where the spaghetti is just going to shoot out of the ground, because according to Kent Hovind, that's apparently a thing that can happen. Yeah.
Oh. Then why aren't we still seeing it happening, Kent?
Where's my spaghetti mine?
Yeah, what the hell?
Encyclopedia, or one of the encyclopedia companies did a chart showing the population of the world at different times through history. And they had...
Hold on, this went from you have to go to the library to get out a book to just, it's the encyclopedia. Okay.
Or
Thanks.
a encyclopedia company somewhere on the planet.
Everybody agrees. This is the basic numbers. But look what they did on this chart here. It goes to 1 billion in 1810. And then it goes back to 1100 AD, which is only 900 years ago.
Okay.
And you see that little gap in there? They get a little gap in it. Then it goes to 4000 BC.
Yeah.
Wait. Are you telling me from 4000 BC to 1000 AD, for 5,000 years, there was no population growth?
Well, not no population growth, but yeah, it was pretty slow. And here's why. Human technology is the thing that humans use to effectively raise the population or the carrying capacity of the Earth. So in population mechanics, the carrying capacity is just how much of a particular population can be supported in the environment. So for instance, let's say you're taking a look at like deer, right? You want to say, okay, how many deer can be supported in like the forests of like Northwest United States? So we're talking about like British Columbia, Oregon, Washington State, that kind of area, right? Okay, it's a good question. That's one big environment for deer, generally speaking. You know, they transit through that whole place. We have to look at things like how much food is there, how much water is there, stuff like that. And obviously, you couldn't fit 18 trillion deer in there and have them survive. They would starve. But on the other hand, if you only have like 40 of them, well, I think that entire environment can probably support a few more than 40. I don't know, maybe. And so that carrying capacity is always a thing that exists for populations. And if you're near your carrying capacity, you cannot have long-term population growth. But what humans do is they use technology to create more efficient methods of making food. But one of the things is that for most of human history, farming technology didn't change all that much. I mean, it wasn't until the medieval period in Europe that someone figured out how to not kill horses and still allow them to be yoked to a plow. Like, that was a pretty big invention. In fact, even having oxen-drawn plows was itself a pretty big invention that really caused a big jump in human capacity to feed themselves. So yeah, for thousands of years, human population only increased very slowly, and really only as people opened up new land to farming, which was itself a slow process. So yeah, it's entirely plausible that for, a good 5,000 years, population just kind of inched along.
You could also probably take a really, if you take any kind of like studies in archaeology or take any kind of studies in history or social or population development, you would notice that there's really, really, really big jumps in population when people figured out farming
Mm-hmm.
and any kind of industry. So there's like you can see throughout history like booms in populations because there's been some kind of like, I mean, we call people boomers for a reason. There was an economic boom that allowed people to live in such a way that allowed them to have access to resources and thus a higher population and higher number of children because they had access to resources that made that easy, basically. Or easier, I should say. I didn't live during that time. I don't know. But when you
Never
go
did.
ahead
I
and
did.
you look at when you look at technological advances when it comes to any kind of industrial growth, and any kind of things that are inventions that work towards people's safety. So it's like, hey, listen, mining caused there to be a boom in population growth because of these reasons, but also people were getting sick. But when we invented ventilators and started using masks and found a way to around that, there was another larger
Yeah.
boom in population again. So, and it's the same thing with when you go from hunting and gathering to being able to settle in a single place, which is safer and yada 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 yada. And people get fed, and you don't have to worry about carrying around babies. Like trying to truck a baby across like half of a continent while predators are coming after you, and this baby's got colic and is crying, and you can't sleep, and now all the predators know where you are because of this fucking baby. You're gonna be a lot less likely to survive than if you can, hunker down in a safe area.
I want to point
I
out,
feel like I would have died of dysentery during that.
just like the
learning
Oregon
that.
Trail, less than half of the current viewers have hit like, which means I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve.
Oh.
Yeah. That might be a compliment. It's hard to tell.
Isn't
I
that what they're
never
trying to show
considered it
by
a
this chart?
compliment, but I don't know.
No population growth in 5,000 years.
No, it's not none. It's very little, but okay.
That's not the way it works.
We already covered it.
Okay? Population in 1800 was about 1 billion. People say, well, the world's overcrowded. No, the world is not overcrowded. There's all kinds of propaganda going on about the world being overcrowded. It is pure baloney. National Geographic ran an article October 99. So, is the world overcrowded? Now, here's the thing. A guy named Thomas Malthus, Malthus. Thomas Malthus did an essay many, many years ago and said, this is way before Darwin, and he said something strange. You want to write this one down. Malthus said, there are more people born than can possibly survive.
Okay, so we're going to take a drink. This is correct. Malthus was... Well, I'll tell you about it after I take a drink real quick. So Malthus was basically like a proto-economist, and he noticed that if the population kept growing at the current pace that it was in his time, but that farming techniques did not improve, which he didn't think they would, that there would be too many people born to feed. Turns out he was wrong about the improving technology bit, but he was one of the people who first had the idea of a population carrying capacity. And then that idea was then taken by Darwin to come up with part of the idea that most species have more offspring than can likely survive to adulthood to reproduce. Therefore, there must be selection because the environment is going to make sure that those least adapted are the ones who are going to most likely die before being able to reproduce. I mean, there is a connection here, and it is correct that Malthus was writing this before Darwin was doing any of his stuff. So, good job, Kent. You got the history of these ideas basically correct.
So it is best if the weakest die off. That book that Malthus wrote had a real profound effect.
Yeah, that's a gross oversimplification.
Yeah.
Effect on Charlie Darwin.
Oh, hey,
Darwin
he was
read
right
that
about that
and said,
too.
wow.
It did have an effect on Charlie Darwin.
That's
Take a
right.
drink.
Oh my, that
This
is
would have
barely
been
correct.
late sep-
You're really gonna give him that one?
I actually am, because actually it was a pretty big influence on Darwin.
Okay, fine.
1700s, I think. I don't know when Malthus did his essay, but it was before Darwin was even born, I believe. But Thomas Malthus
I don't remember.
Populations grow geometrically. You know, you go 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You do that a couple times and you got a gigantic number, okay? He said populations multiply and the food production increases by addition.
Yes, he was wrong about that.
Something along those lines. Don't quote me on that exactly, but basically.
Okay, so here's the thing. Kent is basically right about that. He thought that food production was going to increase more or less linearly while population was going to grow geometrically, which is why he thought there would be a big starvation problem, which is still a possibility because like logically speaking, there must be an actual maximum carrying capacity for humans for Earth. Like there has to be a point at which humans have become the most efficient at growing food and whatnot that they possibly could be, and that's going to support a certain number of humans. So there is an ultimate point. It's just it's not clear that we've reached this or that we should reach it because maybe that would be a bad thing to do.
Basically, Malthus said, the ability to produce food, it increases arithmetically, whereas the population numbers increase geometrically. Major mistake. That is not correct. Because the more people you have, the more people you have to plow the fields and pick the corn and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It is not correct.
Okay, well, I did think I had been agreeing with Kent Hovind too much. Let's take a drink. Malthus was basically correct, but his problem isn't the one Kent says. His problem was not accounting for sufficient increases in technology. Like, he didn't know about artificial fertilizers because no one was using them. But now, without artificial fertilizers, we wouldn't have nearly enough food for the population of the planet. So it's not that just that Malthus was taking into account that more people could grow food. That was part of the reason he said that food production increased, because he knew that as more people were born, more farmers would be around. And yeah, the Sisyphean beat. Yeah, I know Malthus did right before Darwin. I wasn't sure if it was before he was born. So yeah, thank you for confirming that it was before he was born. Because I thought it was, but like, I do not carry around the date of like Malthus's publications like in my head. It's not worth it. But thank you for the confirmation.
But Malthus very convincingly argued the point that it is not possible for everybody that's born to survive. So it's really best if the weakest die off.
I do not remember him saying that.
Everyone is not born to survive. That's such a weird way of saying that.
Yeah.
It would make sense that not everybody born gets to survive or is strong enough to survive, but to say not everybody born is meant to survive? Is somebody having babies just to like for the sake of them dying? Because the only one I know that is down for that kind of stuff, that sounds like a god thing. Not gonna lie. That kind of sounds like a divine plan sort of thing.
I don't even know what it means because like everyone who's born either has died or will die.
Right.
So you're not going to survive forever.
How long
does...
Allegedly.
Well, Kent thinks that. He thinks it's been appointed unto man once to die.
Oh, hey, it's time for me to go on with the show. I don't know why I have an alarm set. Apparently that's just a thing now. I should probably change that.
Hey, it's time to be live. You better get that started there,
right?
Gabber.
Oh my goodness, guys, I'm late. Oh no. All right, we're gonna hit play.
Oh no.
Thomas Malthus was one of the key people influencing Charles Darwin. Another one would be his grandfather, Erasmus Darwin. who he wrote a book called Zoonomia in 1802, I believe. And he said basically everything Darwin said later, his grandpa said. Now, his grandpa, Erasmus Darwin, was an interesting fellow. He was a medical doctor.
Oh, okay. We're going to get weird ad hominem attacks on Malthus Darwin for no reason. That's what's about to happen. So get ready for a prediction drink.
He would be the equivalent of an atheist today, though back then nobody claimed to be an atheist because you wouldn't have any friends, okay?
False. There were, in fact, admitted atheists back in the 1800s. Take a drink.
1800. Nobody would like you. He was huge guy. They had to cut out the table for him to fit his belly in there so he could sit up to the table to eat. They cut a notch in the table.
For correct prediction.
Thomas Malthus, giant guy.
Just no reason.
Medical doctor, and really hated the concept of the Bible being an authority over him. So he kind of did all the primary work, and then Darwin, his grandson, took the credit for it. With this,
that's not really true. Darwin still was the one who came up with natural selection, whereas various other evolutionary ideas have been bandied about, including by Erasmus Darwin.
Great theory of evolution. But here they're always running articles, the world's overcrowded. I want you to understand, when Darwin's book came out in 1859, this was a common teaching that there are more people born than can possibly survive. How many have ever seen the movie at Christmas time called The Christmas Story? You ever watch that thing, with Ebenezer Scrooge? Yeah.
You mean A Christmas Carol, Kent? Not The Christmas Story, which is a movie about someone trying to get, like, a BB rifle, but he could put someone's eye out? You mean A Christmas Carol?
It's a misspeak.
Like, I'm taking a
what?
drink.
I understand.
Like, I've never misspoke. Come on.
Fuck, I understand that Kent Hovind is frustrating, but you can't just interrupt people like that. It's very rude. You have to take your turn. I know, it's okay. I know you're sorry. It's all right. It's okay. Yeah, it's all right. You're forgiven. About it. Interrupt people. It's okay.
Puck.
Oh boy.
Hi, Puck.
I don't know if you can see him. Right there.
What a good boy.
Oh boy. There you go.
All right, here we go.
He's sorry.
Well, he is forgiven.
There's a famous line in there. There's all kinds of famous lines in that movie. But
okay.
Tiny Tim is sick, and they're talking to Scrooge saying, oh, Tim is sick, the ghost of Christmas present or whatever it is talking to Scrooge.
Yeah, whatever.
And Scrooge says, well, if he's going to die, let him die and decrease the surplus population.
That was not in reference to Tiny Tim. Okay, so now apparently we have to go through A Christmas Carol.
The fictional bad guy in a story about a fictional bad guy learning not to be such a Scrooge and such a selfish jerk is clearly
okay.
Clearly Scrooge was just Charles Darwin, didn't you know?
So let's go through this.
Based on a true story.
In the opening to A Christmas Carol, Scrooge is at his bank, which is, that's his job. He's a banker, right? So he's there, and some gentleman from one of these charitable societies is going around collecting money for the homeless. And so Scrooge, being a very miserly man, is disinclined. And so he says, are there no workhouses? And at the time, a workhouse was a place where if you didn't have any money, they would give you technically a place to sleep and food in exchange for grueling manual labor for hours on end.
Oh, that sounds like Kent Hovind's Dinosaur Adventureland.
Yeah, basically. And so the man collecting for charity says, but sir, many of them would rather die than go to the workhouses. And then at that point, Scrooge says, well, good, let them. They can decrease I don't remember the exact quote. It's like, let them die then and decrease the surplus population. And then later, when the Ghost of Christmas Present is showing Scrooge Tiny Tim, who's sick, and then, he's like, oh no, poor Tiny Tim, because he's getting a little bit of sympathy. Eventually, the Ghost of Christmas Future shows him a future without Tiny Tim, where Bob Cratchit and the Cratchit family are distraught at Christmas, just kind of lazily picking at whatever food they have because Tiny Tim is gone. This really upsets Scrooge, because at this point in the story, he's gone through most of his arc. And so you get this will decrease the surplus population, whatnot. And it's like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have that attitude. Yeah, that's it. It's even just the basics of just a story.
It's go watch a story though. I don't understand what his basis is for saying.
He's saying
there's a difference. The problem that people say when people say that the world is overpopulated is about resource management. It's not actually.
He's using it as an illustration that in the 1800s there was a concern about surplus population. That's literally the only reason he's getting the story. He's bringing the story up, but then he gets it wrong anyway.
But why are you still bringing up a fictional story and not bringing up an example of somebody who probably made that argument then, which probably still existed?
I don't know why.
I just, it's been a long time since he's brought up the Green Mile, and I miss that. I wish he would bring that up again.
Oh, the Green Mile. Also, by the way, I'm still seeing about 30 people haven't hit like. Digital Demonic Davros for $5 redo says, the fact that Hovind thinks a fictional story is an allegory for his fictional stories is a bit circular to say the least. Hi, Chesh and Dapper crew. Hello. Also, is that Davros with a Cyberman face on your avatar? That's kind of what it looks like. Anyway.
Oh, hi, Chesh Bent. Oh, hi,
that has been a common teaching for centuries.
Oh, hi, Mark.
That we really need to, thin down the population, called the herd. In reality, the entire population on the planet today would fit inside Jacksonville, Florida.
We're all moving to Jacksonville, Florida. Everyone, pack your bags.
I want a citation for that. How do you suspect, standing shoulder to shoulder
in a pile?
From mass? Is that what he means?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he means physically, if you gave everyone standing room only, you could fit 6 billion people, because he's probably going with the 6 billion population, within the city limits of Jacksonville if you leveled the city.
I'm not sure that that's true, but let's pretend it is.
So here's the thing, right? First I'm going to take a drink, because this is so stupid.
There's a large amount of area in Jacksonville.
Well, maybe there is. But the thing is, the point about overpopulation isn't that physically there isn't enough room to stand. That's not what anyone's arguing. The question is there enough resource production capacity on the planet to support the number of people if the population keeps increasing? Or, even if the population stays steady, is our current method of resource production sustainable in the long term such that we could maintain that high level of population? And the answer to those questions is not very obvious. It may very well be no. No, it's not. In which case, then yeah, there is an overpopulation problem. But no one is making the argument that you can't physically fit that many human bodies on the planet.
Well, I feel like if we all everyone in the world just moved into a big pile of people inside the Grand Canyon, we could all fit. So what's the problem?
I mean, yeah, probably, actually. You probably could fit every human in a pile in the Grand Canyon.
In a pile, like the picture they like to show.
Let's just be done with humanity and we'll all just dump ourselves into the Grand Canyon.
They just put it's just a big mountain of people.
We'll just fill the Grand Canyon in with people and then see if there would be enough people to fill it with bones. So it's just some really cool bone structure that just completes the fills in the Grand Canyon. So when aliens find the planet eventually and everything's desolate, or maybe when aliens find the planet and everything's super cool, there's just this canyon full of, there's just a looks
Where
like
is everyone? Oh, they're right there in that
they're
pile.
right there in that pile of Grand Canyon bones.
By the way, Many Karen says not American, but Florida sucks. Correct. You don't have to be an American to have that opinion about Florida. It really does suck. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Twice. That one city has 25 billion square feet.
That is actually a pretty big area for a city, I will say. If that's the actual area of Jacksonville, Florida, which I assume it is, that's pretty...
It's a very large area.
Yeah, that's a pretty big city. So I actually could
see...
I don't
know if it's that really...
I could actually imagine that billions of people could physically fit within the confines of that area.
Especially if you put them in a blender first.
Well, yeah, that makes it easier.
I'm just saying that,
blender.
Kent's reasoning is so arbitrary that you may as well maybe
why
hey,
not?
if we were to turn everybody into goop and then compress them back in like with the press into like as compact of space as possible, would they fit
I
inside
think
of a
that's
golf
just
ball?
part of the plot to Soylent Green.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
If there are 6 billion people on the planet.
Yeah, spoilers for a movie that came out in like the 60s.
It came out before I was born. Doesn't mean I've seen it.
Fair, but like by this point, you haven't seen it because you haven't wanted to.
Well, maybe we should do a Seabed show on it.
Maybe we should. Maybe I should actually get around to the slight amount of editing that last Seabed show would take and upload it.
What? What?
Spoilers. Hey, guys, you might want to check out the Seabed show channel. Stuff's coming.
What?
This is just
Everybody
spoilers
could
on
have
top of
2
this. Is
foot by
spoilerception.
Mm-hmm. Which means hit like, guys, because still, like, 18 of you something haven't.
2-foot area
Maybe
to
they hit
stand in, which
dislike.
is not even as crowded
That's
as an
true.
elevator. The whole world could go stand in Jacksonville, Florida,
Great.
easily, and probably get them in there twice. Give everybody 2 square feet to stand on.
Okay.
Some take more than
That's
that. Some take a whole
That's
lot
one more
less,
than
you
I
know?
need, right?
Yeah, like I said, yes, physically you could stand all the people in the world in a tiny space relative to the size of the planet. That's not what anyone's arguing about. You couldn't sustain, say, 8 billion people standing room only with 2 square feet to stand in. They can't live that way. They're going to die. How are they going to make food? How's the air not going to get fouled? How are they going to rest? What if there's an injury? How's anyone going to get treatment? Disease would run rampant through that area. Like, I'm taking another drink because it just keeps being so stupid.
More drinks, more
People say the
drinks,
world's overcrowded. I
more
said,
drinks.
You've got to be kidding. Have you driven across Nebraska?
Yeah, you mean the area where it's very hard
Yeah.
to actually make a living because there's so few resources? Yeah, I have. It's like, have you ever driven through the Sahara Desert? You could fit lots of people in there. It's like, well, physically, yes, but there's a
But
reason
so
it's
many people
uninhabited.
in the ocean.
So
many people.
about to say something along those lines. Said it better than I was going to.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Or Texas, or Kansas, or New Mexico?
Never
I remember my
driven
son-in-law
across
Paul and I were driving
Kansas.
back from someplace, New Mexico, I was preaching, and here it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're driving all the way back, trying to get to the airport in time for a 5 o'clock flight. Had a 3-hour drive. I forget what it was. We stopped the car in...
It's pretty hard to be 3 hours from the Albuquerque airport in New Mexico. You gotta be pretty far afield. But okay, sure. There's just not that much that actually you would visit that's 3 hours from that airport, but maybe.
First of all, we just shut the headlights off and drove for probably 60 miles
That's dangerous. Don't do that.
with no headlights on, just trying to drive by starlight. I mean, there was nobody out there.
Okay, that is how you hit a large mammal. Because while it is a desert, there are still large mammals like coyote, pronghorn, deer. Don't do
Are you
that.
falling asleep at the wheel too?
My
Uncle
goodness.
Kent?
But here's
Did you
what I
have your
will
left
say.
foot on the brake and your
Well,
right foot on the...
I'll say this. I have been driving in New Mexico, out in the middle of nowhere, at 3 a.m. And while I don't recommend driving with your headlights off, what I do recommend is pulling off to the side of the road and like well clear of it, turning off your headlights, and then looking up. Because it's very hard if you're like most people and you live in an urbanized area, it's very hard to get that good a view of the sky anywhere else other than you're in the desert, so the air is dry, so there's not a whole lot of atmospheric distortion, there's no clouds. The nearest city lights are like 40, 50 miles away. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I have had an experience similar to this. It was a safer experience because I'm not as much of an idiot as Kent Hovind is. But yeah, it is really, really cool. So I do recommend New Mexico or parts of Arizona for sky gazing.
Drove for miles and miles and miles and miles. Didn't have headlights on. Finally, we stopped the car, middle of the highway, got out and laid down on the road, looking up at
That
the...
sounds...
Don't lay down on the road. I'm
sounds
taking
smart.
a drink. Oh my god, don't lay on the road. I don't care how empty the road is. Holy crap. What if some truck doesn't have their headlights on, or some other idiot like Kent Hovind doesn't have his headlights on, and they just...
Fall asleep on the road. It's fine.
My goodness,
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Like I said, off to the side, pull entirely off. There are areas in all around New Mexico where you can just pull off to the side completely. There are areas basically so you can turn around on the highways because Most of the highways are actually just 2-lane roads that have a really high speed limit.
How about just a general don't take advice from Kent Hovind?
Yeah, that's
If there's
pretty
any
good.
advice that he gives that's decent, you can probably get it from somewhere else that's better.
That's true. Yeah, that's
Take his
pretty good.
advice with a boulder of salt.
Yeah.
Stars. I mean, it was phenomenal how many stars were out there, just incredible.
I'll agree with him there.
Here we are on a pretty major highway, and there's nobody there. I mean,
there's a lot more stars than Kent believes there are.
No, his actually pretty, reasonably accurately quoted the current consensus on about how many stars there are, which is to say,
maybe
many trillions.
He also thinks stars and galaxies are kind of the same thing.
Yeah, that's another thing. He does not know the difference between stars and galaxies. Yeah, he's like, all the stars are redshifted. It's like, well...
not really.
Nah, the ones that we resolve as stars individually, not so much.
For hours, nobody was there.
New Mexico is no longer this dead, by the way.
Is he on, someone's private property?
He's on his own private property. Oh, you mean during this trip?
Yeah, during this
No,
trip.
this was almost certainly the public highways.
Okay.
If you drive around the country or fly around the country, just look out of the window of the airplane once in a while, okay? The world is not overcrowded.
Yes, we all know it is not physically full to the brim with people like a can of sardines, Kent.
Because you can't see piles of people when you look out the window of a plane at 35,000 feet? Is that why?
Yeah. Basically, Kent seems to think that until we get to the situation in that episode of Star Trek where they had, the one woman go get a cold from Captain Kirk so that she could, kill off half her planet's population, because they were literally shoulder to shoulder. Until we get to that point, we're fine. I don't remember what that episode was called. So anyone who tells me that, please, I will give you at least 30 internets.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
30 of them.
You can drive from here to Tallahassee. 200 miles east. We think, the whole east coast of America is populated. Man, go from here to Tallahassee.
Yeah, Florida's a wasteland. We get it.
There is nothing but pine trees between here and Tallahassee. Albert, you drove it a couple times. I mean, it's just nothing. Couple of hills. Oh, wow. Look at the excitement hill. Oh.
Did you ever take any of those exits, Kent? The ones that have, service signs that say, hey, gas, food, and lodging this way? Because, spoiler alert, if you take any of those exits, you find a town that's off the highway that services people on that highway. Just saying.
I just
People
getting
live
this
there?
feeling that Kent thinks the hills have eyes is real.
I'll be honest. I think it would be
He thinks that stopping driving down the highway in the middle of nowhere is just as dangerous as trying to drive through Detroit.
So I think it would be fun to see a horror movie where because you know how most horror movies have that annoying character that you kind of want to see get killed off? I think it would be fun to have a horror movie where that character is based off of Kent Hovind.
Why don't we make that movie?
Dinosaur Adventureland, the horror.
The dinosaurs come alive, and instead of Dennis Nedry, it's a Kent Hovind knockoff. All right, here we go.
Nothing else there. The world's not overcrowded. The population of Escambia County, where we live, it would take about 2 Escambia counties to equal the entire population of Alaska.
Okay.
The North Slope of Alaska, they don't have.
Write that down. It's on your quiz next week.
Guys. Right. Remember this, by the way, this was supposed to be about how old the Earth is. Just want to point out that's the overarching topic that we're supposed to be talking about.
In this college course he's giving right now?
Yes. Remember,
this 200 level?
Allegedly, this was accepted as credit at some various Christian colleges, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently Robert Madewell says it was the Mark of Gideon, which is a name that does not ring a bell. But that doesn't surprise me because it's not like it was Spock's brain or the Balance of Terror or any of those. But yeah, that sounds about right. The Mark of Gideon. Silver Harlow has the same one. Yeah, go watch the Mark of Gideon if you want to see what Kent thinks overcrowding is.
Of counties up there, they have boroughs, okay? And in Louisiana, they call them a parish, and here we call them a county. Most states call them a county, but up there they call it a borough. The North.
Kent got that correct. Let's take a drink.
That tells me that the Earth is 6,000 years old. Thank you, Kent.
Fun fact, the reason that Louisiana calls their subdivisions above municipalities but below the state level parishes is because they were basically drawn along the same lines as the Catholic Church's diocesan borders, because when Louisiana was purchased by the United States from France, it already had a heavy Catholic, French Catholic population there. And so rather than trying to come up with their own separate lines of demarcation, they were just like, all right, the existing lines between parishes are just what are going to be our quote-unquote
so
county lines.
Lost about what laying in the street and A Christmas Carol have to do with the age of the Earth.
Oh, nothing. Kent's on a weird
6,000.
digression.
Just 6,000.
How about can we just get to Egypt? Can we please just get from Noah's flood to Egypt, please? Just that alone, with a decent explanation, would do a lot for me, at least.
You gotta have lot of people to get from 8 people to enough people to not only build the pyramids, but also to be populating the Indus Valley, Mesopotamia, and like the Yangtze River Valley,
and allegedly enslaving a whole other population that's separate.
Yeah, allegedly enslaving tens of thousands of Hebrews.
So, help.
Yeah. Slope borough, if I recall, it's about twice the size of Ohio.
Okay.
That one county. The entire population is 10,000. There's going to be more people than that in the one church building I'm speaking at this Sunday up at First Baptist Church, Hammond, Indiana.
Okay.
It's in one building. Okay.
Your face is 10,000.
Chuck Smith Church in California, 14,000 people. That's greater than the entire population of the whole borough. And no, I said what? And by the way, nearly all of those are concentrated in 2 towns. In Barrow, Alaska, and I forget the other one. Barrow has, I think, 6,000. The other town has 3 or something like that.
Fun fact: Barrow, Alaska, is the northernmost settlement in North America.
I want to know if Kent actually understands what 6,000 people actually looks like in a town.
Yeah, like what? So I don't know.
If he actually understands, conceptually what that number means, or what it looks like from a resource standpoint, and from, if you have a town, what does a town of 6,000 people actually, require, and,
Well, yeah, well, one of the things that he's skipping over is, say, Barrow, right? Barrow has to have everything that the people there need flown in, because you can't drive there, and the only reason Barrow exists is as a town to get oil, right? The whole place is just run by an oil company. And everyone who lives there is either living there working for the oil company or working for one of the businesses that help support the oil company. And then all the goods there have to be flown in. You could not have a population living like that in Barrow, Alaska, just on their own, without using the large amounts of land resources that other people are using to grow their food, or the various capital resources and labor resources that take up a lot of space that people are using to make their various technologies. Barrow is not a self-sustaining population. If, the apocalypse came and air travel was no longer a thing, even if everyone in Barrow survived just fine whatever event it was, they would not be long for this world.
There are very few places anymore that are entirely self-sufficient like that, especially when you start getting to a country-wide scale, right?
Yeah.
So everybody so much relies on, because the populations have grown in capacity more than what just that individual place would be able to sustain, but because we're in a global market, that's not an issue.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
I don't know, it's not much. So I said, what's property cost up here? Cost? What do you mean cost? Come on up. You can have all you want. We'll give it to you.
That is technically basically true, so we'll take a drink. So there is still public land that you can basically just homestead in Alaska, and Alaska residents are actually paid by the government to live there because that's how much Alaska sucks. But also because the Alaska state government owns an oil company that does most of the oil drilling, and that money comes in, funds the state government, and it also exceeds the operating budget of the state government, so then the rest is distributed amongst the population of Alaska. So, it's about right. Yeah, it's also the location of 30 Days of Night, as was pointed out by Vishanti, which there's a reason for that. It's because, one, it's a remote place, which makes it a fun horror movie setting, but also because, yeah, they have an entire month where the sun doesn't rise in the winter, and another entire month where the sun doesn't ever set during the summer. And, if you're a clan of vampires, 30 days of no sunlight, and, 5,000 people? Sounds like a pretty good time.
Nobody wants to stay there.
I mean, a lot of people now wouldn't survive just on the fact that you're gonna get bored.
Yeah, I imagine Barrow
boredom is a real thing that kills people, by the way. Like,
now,
you can die from boredom.
I have an uncle who spent some time in Barrow. I suppose I could try to ask him, hey, how boring is Barrow? But, yeah, I imagine that
there's YouTube there, it's fine.
Well, that's the other thing. They definitely don't have high-speed internet. At best, you're getting a satellite connection.
The world is simply not overcrowded. The point is, they're lying.
Yes, let's all go move to Barrow. That'll be fun.
Now, why would somebody teach the world is overcrowded? What would be a motive behind teaching something like that? Anybody got any ideas?
You're concerned about the long-term well-being of humans?
I don't know, why would people teach that we should all get in a big pile in the Grand Canyon?
Is Kent really trying to speculate in a negative way about somebody else's motives?
Yes.
Dude, bruh, please, pot kettle, no.
He's about to take it further than that.
Don't do this to me. I did nothing to deserve this.
Decrease population. Why would you want to decrease population? Well, it's easier to control. There are some super rich bazillionaires who they have
just
like
take
bazillionaires.
Just take
you just went full Dr. Evil.
Oh my goodness.
They honestly have a
Dr.
sincere
Evil
desire to
Hogan.
control the world. And they think there's just too many people out there. No,
Illuminati!
I tell folks, if it's overcrowded where you are, then
The
move,
Illuminati
okay?
lizard people
overcrowded.
have bajillions of dollars. But don't forget, don't touch the glass.
I dug for dinosaur bones on a lady's ranch in Colorado. Right near Dinosaur Valley, Dinosaur Monument, what's it called in Utah? Vernal, Utah. They call that the dinosaur something.
It's Monument, but okay.
Dinosaur. All the streets are named after
I
dinosaurs.
think he would know.
Vernal,
He is
Utah.
the doctor of dinosaurs.
Right? He's Dr. Dino who knows virtually nothing about dinosaurs, including what a dinosaur is. Do you think he knows that not all the animals on his desk are dinosaurs?
Absolutely not. He
No
doesn't know
way.
that.
Okay.
He would argue that they are.
He opened up a package of kids' toys from the dollar store.
Oh, those
that
are
was just like
no,
dinosaurs. And
okay, let's be fair.
put
Those
it
are
on his
much.
desk.
Those are much nicer than what you get in a dollar bag of dinos.
I stand by it.
Okay, but you're definitely wrong.
But listen,
$1 bag of dinos. I like
don't
that
know.
phrase. That's got to
Yeah.
be a band name or something.
dollar bag of dinos.
Or it can be our new merchandise option. You just get a dollar bag and it's full of dinos.
Look like little paper cutouts.
Yes. Guys, put Godzilla in the chat if you would like a dollar bag of dinos that's Dapper Dino branded.
At least they'd all be dinosaurs.
Yeah. A lot of them would be birds, I'll be honest.
Oh.
We drove flew to Salt Lake City and drove out. I asked this lady, I said, how big is your ranch? She said, well, it's 213,000 acres. That's like 38 square miles of ranch. She goes all the way
I'm not going to do that math.
up to Wyoming, and she told me the borders. I couldn't believe it. I said, what's property cost out here? She said, I think it was 17 cents an acre or something like that. It's phenomenal.
So Kent doesn't understand real estate. Confirmed.
Yes.
Okay.
That's basically what
Got
we're learning.
it.
But you know what? We're going to take a quick break to refresh drinks, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to listen to more stupidness. We've already been through 11 and a half minutes of this video, guys. We're making great time on this one.
That's pretty good comparatively.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, here comes the clock. And we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for those of you who stuck with me. I see that some 7 or so people just couldn't take a little intermission. Also, I want to say Robert Madewell, who, by the way, is a channel member. Thank you very much, Robert Madewell, says, I'm amazed that the Klingon clock looks like an Earth clock. What's the odds that an alien species would keep time exactly like another species? Well, first, I want to say that it is actually a canon part of the Klingon language that Klingon mathematics have, in fact, changed as a result of contact with other civilizations, especially the civilizations of the Federation, who have adopted sort of Earth standards for most mathematical functions, including timekeeping. So this is not the native Klingon timekeeping thing. However, most Klingons have switched to sort of a galactic standard method of timekeeping and number systems. Evidence Reasons says that he's having a late dinner. Hibachi steak, chicken, vegetables, and ooh, wow.
Nice.
Sounds pretty good.
And he's amplifying the taste with sugar and soy sauce, which are the most important parts of teriyaki.
I am super jelly.
Yeah, sounds pretty awesome. You should send me some of that stuff. Before we get really right back into it... I'll
share it in a big pile in the Grand Canyon, I'm just saying.
Before we get right back into it, I want to say that I am going to be starting a Patreon drive. So I'm hoping that I can get it to 400. That's the goal right now. We're currently about 120 something away from that. So we're not that far. So please do consider supporting the Patreon. It starts at $1, and it has a lot of tiers. And there are some pretty nice benefits. You can get into the paid-only server. You get access to almost 2 months worth of extra videos that are yet to come out. You have pretty quick access to me if you need to ask me questions about anything. And I am pretty good about getting back to people who are either on Patreon or in the Discord server or whatever. So do consider it. It is linked in the description. So yeah, I'm hoping to get that up there because that would go a long ways towards, the financial stability of the channel. So, because, I mean, look, it's a concern, right? If the channel doesn't grow, then it eventually will have to shut down. And we're getting to the point where it's becoming a concern that is in the foreseeable but not immediate future. So, yeah, that would really help. Because I would really not like... I don't want to have to take time away from the channel to go do other things, but this year it's likely to happen if the channel doesn't grow a bit more. So please do consider that. Like I said, it starts at only $1 a month. If, I think, let's see, if everyone here joined, I think at the $5, let's see, so
I enjoy when it's when it goes to, hey, you should totally like and sub and stuff because it's a good time and it'll help support the channel in a way that is proactive to being like, hey, I wonder what the math actually is on that. You can tell you're on a science channel.
Yeah, actually, if everyone here just went to the $5, we would more than make up that goal. We would
just tell your closest 1 million friends, and that should be fine.
Well, thank you for subscribing, Marty. And also, I do want to say, if you can't afford it, then don't even consider it. Right? So don't even consider it if you can't afford it. But if you can, I really do hope that you think about it because, like I said, I want to get the channel to 400 per month on Patreon. I think there's a 10% discount if you join annually. So that also counts towards the total. So yeah, I'm trying to get to that point. So yeah, that's a little bit of a Patreon drive. I'm going to mention it in the next few shows, probably until I can hopefully get there. So, and if you do, thank you in advance. And you will also be added to the credits if you pledge at the $5 or above tier. So here we go.
I was in South Dakota staying at this farmer's house. He said, well, we're thinking about buying the field across the street to add to the farm. I said, how big is it? He said, it's, I don't know, like 10,000 acres. This was to add to his farm, okay, 10,000 acres. I said, what's he want for it? He said, well, he wants, 50 cents an acre.
That is a funny number, I guess.
I mean, I guess.
10,000 acres.
Big numbers.
I'm going to try to talk
How many people would fit in there?
Depends on how tall the pile of people is.
Hey, Kent, if you've got so much space at Dinosaur Adventureland, why aren't you supporting more homeless people?
Oh, well, I mean, technically, everyone at Dinosaur Land, or Dinosaur Adventureland would be homeless if not for their living there. Oh, there's
That's
Mothra.
why I said more.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he's got all this space, and allegedly this many people will fit in that much space, so why does he have less than that many people?
Yeah.
I don't know why he doesn't have people standing 1 foot apart from each other in his own property.
Because then they might touch the glass.
I don't understand real estate.
See, even
just
he
don't have a
laughed at
clue.
my joke.
You know, try to buy an acre in downtown Los Angeles or Hawaii. I remember years ago, my mom, before she died, my mom and dad were in real estate.
Oh my god!
And they were,
We're not going to listen
about Hawaii
to this.
where it's not a whole lot of area and a lot of people kind of want to be there.
There's something to be said about, like, he's sitting around explaining exactly why his point about having a large number of people fitting in a small space doesn't apply, and how, like, that doesn't work. And, like, how long is he gonna go on and tell us why he's wrong about his assumption from the beginning? Because,
at least 12 minutes.
All right, here we go.
I need some copium, yeah.
Oh, and I want to say that just now, we had a pledge on the Patreon for $5 a month from Paul. I'm going to try and get this last name right. Habitability, I think. So thank you very much, Paul. See, that's going a long way. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
in Hawaii on a trip over there for something, and they said land in downtown Honolulu on the beach is, at that time, it was $500 a square foot.
What? That's crazy.
When I was in Japan, Tokyo, I've never seen a place so crowded with...
We're going to start skipping because, yes, we all know that some land is more valuable than other land because some land can only be used for things like relatively low capacity farming, whereas other land can be at a premium for housing of humans or factory building or whatever else. We know.
People. Car. So that when you drive...
Okay.
When we came to his house, he said, everybody's got to get out of the car because when I pull into my parking place, there's no room to open the doors. Own a car unless you can prove you have a place to park to this room we're in, okay? He said, but that would only be for the land.
Still talking about Japan.
But there are some places where it's not real crowded. But back when Jesus was on the earth, the population of the earth was about 250 million.
Getting whiplash.
Okay, so now let's talk about this chart. Here's my big question. Why is it that the first section has this nice geometric curve to it up to some unknown, but apparently more than 1 billion people on Earth before the flood? Then the flood happens, and then we get this linear progression for part of it, and then it just kind of kicks off with this, geometric increase, maybe sometime after the birth of Christ. And like, clearly, no actual data went into this. There were no estimates.
Well, yeah, there's not a single one besides the flood one that actually dips down. And, like, we know plagues happened.
Plagues, wars. Genghis Khan killed a significant portion of the human population.
Rome was a thing.
Right. Like, we know that there were dips in global population along this entire time, but that makes the math harder for Kent, so let's ignore that.
Not like he's the one making this.
I think it might actually be original to his, like...
It says billions of souls on the right side. I mean...
Oh my god! This is the most scientific chart I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
It has Noah's flood, 8 survivors in the chart.
See also scientific creationism, page 167.
Goodness. Oh my goodness, I own that book.
Oh no!
Fallout page 167.
Oh, I'm not
sure
what
does it
say?
say?
I'm not going to go grab it right now. I'm not sure where my copy is.
Ah, boo.
Sorry.
Alright. Fine. You mean it's not as accessible as your Dungeons and Dragons book? Is that what you're telling me?
No, all my Dungeons and Dragons books are within arm's reach.
Fine.
Well, Bent, you got to put some on your wish list.
Maybe.
Okay, here we go.
Yes, that's a good idea, actually.
They know that. Well,
put the player's handbook on your wish list at least.
I'm not going to read it.
No one reads it. Just ask Chesh. You look at it like a reference book.
Yeah. Nobody ever reads it.
Yeah, you reference it. Okay, yeah, I'll put it on my wish.
How would you know that? Why was Jesus born in Bethlehem? Anybody know?
Because the earth is 6,000 years, I know.
All the kings have always counted their people.
Okay, so here's a little...
All the kings have always counted their people, and you know
First-
they're accurate because they're kings.
I'm actually not so sure that that's the case. So
What about
all the
queens?
kings? Yeah, whatever.
Who do they count?
But here, okay, first I'm going to take a drink.
Half of the time humans have been alive, we don't count people as people.
Okay.
Like, how long was it
Yeah.
before we were like, oh yeah, no, those people, you know what, they do count as people, so we'll count them for the census.
Well, actually, for census taking, most governments have wanted to maximize the numbers because that maximizes the tax liability. So even if otherwise you wouldn't have counted as a person, you do for the census.
Oh, there you go.
But here's the thing, right? There's no record of any census anywhere in history requiring people to arbitrarily travel to the hometown of their ancient ancestors. For the very good reason that makes no sense. You want to know where people are living in your kingdom.
Currently, yeah.
Right. You don't want to know where the descendants of some ancient guy live. You don't care about that, right? Like, who? So the story about there was a census in those days, and everyone had to return to this hometown of his fathers or something. That's not a thing that occurred historically. Now, I'm not saying that Jesus, who I'm fairly confident was a real historical figure, wasn't born in Bethlehem. But if he was, it wasn't for that reason. That's simply made up. Sorry. Look, I've been pretty harsh on the whole story of the Exodus, so now I'm going to be harsh on the narrative around the Nativity. And yeah, there was never a census when people had to go to the hometown of their ancient ancestors. So Kent is simply wrong that if Jesus was born in Bethlehem, it wasn't because of a census. Maybe it was because Mary and Joseph were passing through on their way from one place to another. Maybe they were visiting some family. I don't know.
Maybe they were homeless at the time.
Right. Maybe he wasn't born in Bethlehem, but it was put in there because that, according to the author, helped fulfill a prophecy. I'm not taking a position on why that's in the text or whether or not Jesus was really born in Bethlehem. But it definitely wasn't because of a census.
Why? Money. Sure.
Why?
How many of you are there?
Yeah, that's true. Censuses were primarily done to determine tax liability for various jurisdictions. So take a drink. Kent does know why censuses were historically done. Speaking of which, I actually got a letter today from the voting registration people saying, hey, we can't send you your voting card yet because we're redistricting. And I got it in this big official envelope and whatnot, and I hate getting official looking envelopes when I'm not expecting them. Even when it's nothing bad. I also got one from the IRS that was just like, oh, hey, you got this much in COVID relief. You're going to need that for your taxes. But I hate it because I'm like, why is the government contacting me unsolicited? It's almost never good. So it's a pet peeve of mine. I never want to receive official looking mail unless I requested it. So, when I got that birth certificate that cost me $80.
How much money can I get?
That you were just always had been alive.
Right, yeah. Because I'm not a real person unless I can pay $80 to get a certified copy of my birth certificate.
It is a guesstimate. It is a very reasonable guesstimate, but it is a guesstimate. Nobody knows for sure, but $250 million at the time of Christ is what most books on population will say.
I'm not
I've
going
seen
to
something that say
that.
200,000.
Wait. I have a question.
Quarter.
So he's fine with the scientific consensus on this point in particular? Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't invalidate any of his, pre-concluded theological positions.
I just mean that, if he's going to be so nitpicky about everything, why would he just take that for granted?
Because it doesn't hurt his position. That's literally the only reason. There's no, principled stand on this. It's literally just, this does not affect my position, therefore I'm okay with it.
It just seems arbitrary.
It is. It's entirely arbitrary.
Why doesn't the church put more money into research then, so they could verify all this stuff on their own?
Some churches do. Just not.
Some churches do.
Yeah.
I didn't say they don't do any. I said, why don't they put more in?
I mean, most churches are pretty happy to just accept most of the scholarship from.
Right.
Right. It's already covered.
So the implication is that most churches don't agree with Kent Hovind because he's a crazy person.
Yeah. Not even most creationist churches agree with Kent Hovind.
Oh, yes.
It's
good for them. Good job, everybody.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you know, but there is a Kent Hovind docu-series that is ongoing right now and I'm going to try and find it, because everyone should watch it. I believe it's called The Weakness of Kenthoven, I believe. And it is, so far, it has been excellent. There's a preview and 2 episodes. It is on the McKinnon Mitchell channel. That's McKinnon, McKinnon Mitchell, Mitchell. It has been excellent, although I think sometimes it has been a bit overly dramatic. Like McKinnon uses a little bit more like black and white, like harsh contrast than I would use.
It's a little bit dramatic,
right? That's a very minor complaint. But yeah, overall it's been very excellent, and it also has been pulling 0 punches.
No, I still have to. I had somebody send me that, and I haven't watched it yet, and I'm looking forward to it when I get a little bit of time.
Episode 2 just dropped, I think, like a day ago or so.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
A billion is 250,000. It doesn't matter. But this is a reasonable number.
Sure.
Based on this, now people say, what about plagues and famines? One person wrote in today to my radio program and said, Hovind, you're an idiot. What about plagues and famines and the population, stuff like that?
Hey, we said that.
Yeah,
that was us, yeah.
This is taking all that into consideration.
And why isn't it shown on the chart then?
I know. Just take a drink. That's just a lie. I can just lie to them, even though I'll show them up on screen my chart of just nice, smooth population growth that never dips. Never. Not even once.
Actually, this graph is based on the known population at certain times.
No, Kent, it obviously isn't.
Certain times?
Now, let's suppose you have a plague in Europe in the 1300s, and it kills 1/3 of the entire population of Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a little blip in the scale, and it goes right back up.
Why?
Immediately.
There's several reasons why it goes right back up. Number one, the plague's only in Europe.
Right.
Wrong. Take a drink.
Therefore, all those people who died in Europe didn't actually die.
The Black Plague was
the population comes right back up.
The Black Plague was well documented in Europe, but it actually turns out that it was far more widespread, and it infected large parts of the Silk Road and the entire Mediterranean area, including North Africa and the Near East. So, no, it wasn't just Europe. It's just that that's where we have some of the best records, but also it's where a lot of Western historians have spent the most time because, well, people like to study the history of where they're from, and when you're a Western historian, that means you tend to like to study Western history. I'm sure that, say, Chinese historians have a much better idea about how the Black Plague affected China than most European or American scholars do.
I don't think Kent understands that just because a population is affected in a specific geographical area, that it actually affects other areas that may have not directly come in contact with the specific plague.
Yeah, I agree. He probably doesn't understand. Yeah.
Cause and effect, and sometimes things affect other things. Time exists.
No,
probably.
Only probably. It might not.
Probably.
All right, here we go.
There's still plenty of people having kids in other parts of the world, okay? And
so, wait.
They were doing that before.
Okay, no, hold on. I gotta, wait. So, let me get this straight. A bunch of people die in England, and instantaneously, at the same time, a bunch of people in another part of the world just happen to have a huge boom in population. Is that a God thing? Is that God being listen, this is what I've planned this. It's okay, hear me out. I planned this. Guys, don't look at me like that. Hear me out. These guys are about to have a plague, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, bamf a bunch of babies down over here, and that way the whole thing will be perfectly valid.
In Europe die, the rest of the world just gets really aroused.
Is this normal?
So, yeah, and as, TD Lane's pointing out, the bubonic plague, decimated populations all across the Silk Road and whatnot. Also, I just got a little bit of buffering on my end. If people are also buffering, let me know. Cause,
I want to know if Kent knows anything about commerce of Europe at that time.
Are you kidding me? Kent?
No,
Kent doesn't know what a dinosaur is.
Kent doesn't learn, Kent teaches.
Yeah.
So
if Henry Morris or Dwayne Gish or maybe one other from that era creationists didn't know it, Kent Hovind never learned it. And he won't ever learn it.
It's very quick for a population to recover if the infrastructure is already in place.
Sometimes, but it took more than a century to recover from some of the major plagues. Like, look at the plague of Justinian. That was horrifying, and you don't know about it because it happened in Asia Minor.
Sure, the people died, but they left their house. The streets are there. The wells are already dug.
Yeah, because none of that stuff's going to fall apart with no one to maintain it. It's going to be fine, guys.
The fields are already plowed.
No, they're not, because the people who would have plowed them are dead. Just taking a drink. I can't.
Well, no, you plow the field, and then everyone dies of the plague, and that
and now
means
the
field
fields-
can't grow. Nothing can grow in the field too, because like all photosynthesis stops because of the plague, right? Is that how science works? I love science.
I don't.
I'm an expert on dinosaurs. Don't ask me how to
And the
identify
Bible.
a skeleton as a dinosaur, though, because that's impossible.
Okay, so I like that Kent Hovind is an expert on the Bible and dinosaurs who doesn't know what dinosaurs are, and who also doesn't know who wrote 1st and 2nd Timothy.
It was Timothy. What do you mean? It's
Yeah.
in the name.
I think First Timothy wrote First Timothy, because
Are-
why would the Bible
Yes.
lie?
It's Timothy
Are you
Jr.
suggesting that? Are you suggesting that the author of 1987 is not named 1987? How dare you?
Correct. I am suggesting.
I think it.
I'm
Wait a minute.
offended by
Now I'm
this.
confused. Hold on. What's this book called?
What is the name of this book again? Isn't it 1983?
84.
1984? I don't know. I didn't read it. Can you tell?
I
I don't read.
haven't read it either. Yes, I own it, but no, I haven't read it.
It's
Alright.
it's
Maybe
like
one day.
I didn't realize the guy who wrote Silver Wings' name was actually Silverwing. What happens when he writes it? Does his name change when he writes another book?
Yes. You're
Oh.
only allowed to write books named after yourself. Just ask.
1987, 1983, 1984. Listen, I just spent too much time watching Back to the Future. Don't worry about it.
Well, that's good, because
1955.
remember, when we do our shot-for-shot remake of Back to the Future, you're Marty McFly.
Yeah, hell yeah. Written by
So the
1984 Well. You win for best
Yeah,
comment
TC
tonight.
the
Thank
Unbeliever,
you.
that was really
Nice.
good.
Infrastructure didn't change. So now, afterwards, man, you might as well have 12 kids
Oh.
because basically they can get their own house for free.
No, people were already having 12
What?
kids, and most of them were dying anyway. That didn't change after the plague. And no, you don't just have free houses because the survivors generally still maintain a claim on that house. It's just that instead, where there was once a family of like 8 people, there's now like a family of 4 people trying to work the same amount of land unsuccessfully.
Does he think that, like, why are we building new houses now, even though there's empty ones? Bruh.
That is a deep dive that I do not want to get into, as it turns out.
I just want to know what Ken
Houses.
thinks.
I don't know why we need
Oh.
houses at all. We just need to be in a pile.
Yeah, in the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
In the Grand Canyon.
I'm vote for this. I agree.
All right. Well, guys, when I start my presidential run for the Grand Canyon Pile Party, now Bent will be
Actually-
my vice president, and Chesh will be my ambassador from Canada.
I have a question.
That'll work.
Do we think it would actually be kind of cool if we like built, like carved out, like pockets for housing inside the Grand Canyon?
Being like it has already been done thousands of years ago? Yes.
Yeah, but
that
like
would be
more
cool.
modern. Would that be cool?
It would be cool, but it would be super illegal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Obviously, ignoring that part.
Right? It would be cool.
No, Chesh, you can't do that. That's illegal. Like, I haven't heard that before. I'm gonna go carve out a house in the Grand Canyon. You can't stop me.
Oh, you're gonna become an illegal immigrant?
Nobody'll know. It's fine. I'm a goblin. Nobody'll notice.
Probably true. Goop-Doo 3.
There'll just be ghost stories about this creature living in the Grand Canyon, stealing people's chicken nuggies.
Goop-Doo 3 for $2 says, it's free real estate. All right, here we go.
I love side chats so much. You
I
guys are
know.
the best.
Oh,
Oh,
I have one of the best chats on YouTube as far as I'm
you
concerned.
do.
Yeah.
True facts.
Mhm.
You guys are amazing. Whew.
There's no
Thank you for helping me
economic
through this.
incentive to have a small family after a great plague or something like that. The more kids you have, the more easier to take care of the farm.
That was true before the plague, you idiot. I'm taking another drink. I'm sorry.
It also depends on if you're living on farmland and not in Alaska.
Well, yeah, if you were living in Alaska during that plague, one, hopefully you avoided the worst of the plague because, you know, you're in Alaska. But two, if you didn't, there's not much farmland there anyway.
Okay. So the plagues and population blips in the scale are short-lived and minimal effect.
No, I mean, we just know that that's false.
Even now, the plagues going across, some parts of the world that are killing off, thousands of people. It'll have close to zero effect on the population growth.
On the world, local populations, yeah, but you know what? I'm pretty sure that while the past few years of pandemic probably won't reduce the total population, it'll probably put a noticeable dent in the population growth rate. And when the population growth rate was much lower, because again, we were closer to the carrying capacity for humans on Earth, and technology growth was slower, it could put a significant dent not only in the population growth rate, but in the overall population.
That's one of the many reasons. Okay. Some people say, well, the population, man's been here for millions of years. Now, that's ludicrous.
Why?
I have on my chart here that before the flood, I just picked a number. You can see the question mark there. Mm-hmm. 1 billion people. I don't have a clue. Nobody has a clue. I have no way of telling, okay?
Okay, well, thank you for admitting that this is made up. I appreciate that.
The reason I picked that number, it's a lot shorter time than we've had since the flood, where we now have 6 billion. But they probably had more rapid population growth before the flood. Why would populations grow faster before the flood?
Because you said they probably would.
Right.
They're living longer.
Of course.
Okay, so I know we went over this last time, but we're gonna talk about it a little bit again. One, human females cease infertility after just a few decades, and we haven't been presented with anything that would indicate that if you lived longer as a female human, you would just have a longer fertile period. Like, you're gonna have to actually argue for that. Further, we know that male fertility, while it doesn't simply tend to have a cutoff point, it does decline. So even if you're a male human and your partner is a completely fertile, like we'll say like 20-something, right? And you're in your 80s or 90s, well, you're gonna have a hard time having a baby there. Now it does happen, right? Like we said last time, the reason people called Strom Thurmond Sperm Thurmond is because he was having kids into his 80s. So, I mean, it happens, but like, it's pretty unusual. Further, we can't just say that people didn't age, because we know that according to Kent, the reason that people look like, the reason Neanderthals look different from modern humans is because they're just really old. So,
I really hate to bring it up, but men can keep like pumping out viable splooge for a while, whereas women have, like, because of the health risk increase as you age, to be able to pop out miniatures, there's a pretty big disparagement. So even if you have 1% of your population that can still be like viably create children, it doesn't mean that there's anybody to create those children with.
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, population growth is limited in humans by fertile females, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have, but that's the thing, if they're just living a long time and consuming resources, but they're not fertile, then you're actually gonna have a lower growth rate because people are just living a long time. So like, oh, and hey, there's great grandma needs. Oh, sorry.
Then there's no sense of urgency to have children.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, none of this makes a whole lot of sense, but whatever, Kent, sure.
You're having kids for 800 years.
No, they're really not.
Have a lot of kids in 800 years.
No.
At least the women aren't. And the men probably aren't, but maybe.
Okay. Like a lot of kids. But if man had been here for millions of years like they tell us, the population today would be so incredible. We'd have about 150,000 people per square inch.
That's not how resources work.
Okay, yeah, take a drink, everybody.
Based on what?
Based on just a population growth rate that only increases geometrically and never decreases.
It's not even that. He just gave you a number.
Well, I mean, you can come up with numbers that make
Right,
that
but
work.
he's not.
Oh yeah, he's not doing it. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's not doing it. Yeah. So here's the thing there. Like we said before, Malthus wasn't entirely wrong that carrying capacity is a thing. It is. And we know this because there are a lot of organisms that reproduce way faster than humans and would have completely coated the Earth in a miles-thick layer, namely bacteria, right? If you give bacteria access to essentially infinite resources, they'll grow to consume the entire planet in like a matter of a few months. It's crazy. Bacteria can reproduce at just prodigious rates, orders of magnitude faster than humans. So how come the planet hasn't been covered in bacteria? Like, and by cover, I mean it is covered, but I mean like miles high wall of solid living bacteria. Oh, right, because bacterial populations are typically limited by food resources. Interesting.
What if we pile up all the bacteria in the Grand Canyon?
They would not fill it. They're probably too small.
Oh well.
That would be overcrowded. Now, by the way, today only 3% of the Earth is habitable. 70% under.
You spent this entire time. Oh my god, I'm taking a drink.
Hey, if it's overcrowded where you live, move.
Right, Kent, you just spent so long telling us how the Earth doesn't count as overcrowded until everyone is literally standing next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, with no room. And now you're going to tell me that only about 3% of the Earth is habitable? So which one is it, Kent? Okay, look. I'm going to say it again. I know young Earth creationism is never going to correspond to reality. Like, it's always going to be in conflict with reality. But could at least it not contradict itself? Like, that's my minimum, right? Like, have coherent world building for your fantasies. That's it. Like, you know, get to the level of, like, Tolkien or something in terms of internal coherence.
He needs an editor.
Well, he had one for his dissertation. We saw how that went.
No, he had somebody that could type for him.
That's true. Yeah, he probably had a transcriptionist.
Who was like a high schooler.
Yeah, that is the story that we got. Although I'm still not sure exactly how well verified it is, but that is the
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
The current working theory is he had a teenager slaving for him for however long it took him. Well, he was just talking at her and she was just typing, probably on a typewriter in a hot, sticky office because he's a dick.
And it was probably in Florida.
And she was probably really uncomfortable.
Yeah. Robert Madewell says at least he's not a flat earther. Okay, here's the thing though. Kent Hovind would be a flat earther if his mentors had been. He doesn't have any good reasons not to be a flat earther because I've heard him try to defend the globe. He can't. He has no idea how to demonstrate the Earth is a globe.
I also don't think that this is any better than flat Earth either. I've seen a lot of dumb things, and I have a hard time at this point thinking that flat earthers are the dumbest. At least they're but it looks flat when I look around. Yeah, at least that's something.
Yeah.
And at least they tend to know what field they're actually speaking in when they show up for a conversation. So at least a flat earther knows you're talking about gravity, or they might not be right about gravity, but they know you're talking about physics, or they know you're talking about geometry. They're wrong about it, but at least they know the field of study. At least that's something. Right? Kent Hovind doesn't even know that the difference between abiogenesis, evolution, and cosmology. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, guys, I just put up a poll. Who is smarter, Kent Hovind or Nathan Thompson?
Get your votes in.
Get your votes in.
Can I? I'm gonna vote.
Don't tell everyone.
I won't tell anybody. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Water to start off, okay? A lot of the rest of it's deserts or ice caps that are uninhabitable.
You were just talking about how Barrow, Alaska shows that the Earth isn't uninhabitable, Kent. It's basically on an ice cap, but whatever, sure, who cares?
I'll just say I can't vote on that poll because they're both dumb.
That's fair.
I don't know.
This is a would you rather.
I won't vote.
It really is, yeah.
Saskatoon, Canada. We got off the airport and drove, I don't know how far north, And the guy said, this is about the edge of human farming. From here north, there just isn't much because crops won't grow. And we...
Thank you for telling me that I was right about all the reasons you're an idiot, Kent.
We're only at about the, I don't know, 52 or 3 or 4 degrees north of the equator. It goes to 90.
Okay, I'm going to take a drink. Hey, Josh.
Yes.
Is there farmland up there in the frozen norths of Canada?
Yes.
Does it go above 50 north?
I don't know. I don't know enough about geography.
Oh, well,
probably.
Let's take a look at you know. Let's just do Google Maps.
I did not do good in geography when I was in school, and I'm also have a 62 IQ, except right now for the next 30 days until I get to make a check again. I'm at 6.2, so please please send help.
Okay, so actually, you know what? Wait, where's Saskatoon? Because maybe I'm just drunk and making a stupid point.
Canada.
Yeah, okay, you know what? It's probably reasonable to say that that was the extent of human farming because of northerly latitude. Whatever, I'm fine with that. Yeah, that works. Okay, you know what, Kent?
There's also
I'll
like
take a drink
technical
for you
limit.
Basically being okay-ish.
There's also like the technical aspects. So like what technology was available at the time, and so depending on when you look at farming equipment and methods of farming would be better or worse, and be able to be in more extensive areas depending on crop changes and like genetic modifications via whether through like modifying in a lab or whether through modifying via breeding purposes, and then whether you're talking about like farming as in like animal farming, or are you specifically talking about plants, because that's a whole nother thing. Are you talking about crops only, or are you talking about I'm herding caribou?
Yeah, also,
for reasons?
I'm going to point out that Ernest Patriot and Vishanti have pointed out that there are farms in much more northerly latitudes like Iceland and like Scandinavia and whatnot. So I will say this. It might be that in that part of British Columbia, that's the farthest north that you can farm, but that's not on Earth. But anyway,
all right, I want another poll after this one. I want to know who's worse, Uncle Kent or Grandpa Joe.
Which one's Grandpa Joe?
The grandpa from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, right. Yeah, the one who was pretending to be lame the entire time, even though he could actually dance.
Well, his family suffers and then gets Charlie in trouble and loses him the thing because he convinces him to do things he doesn't want to do because he's gaslighting jerk.
Yeah. Whenever anyone says, hey, this movie or book or whatever doesn't have a villain, yes, it does.
Grandpa Joe.
It's Grandpa Joe. You know what? We'll just switch it over. We'll just end this poll. So. All
right. I want to know. I want to know who won, because I want to explain mine if I need to.
Okay. So let's see. We're gonna go for who's worse. Kent. Grandpa. Come on, Grandpa Joe. All right. There we go. And by the way, who's smarter? Nathan Thompson won 62% of the votes. That's awesome. Although only 24 people voted.
Him. I voted. I picked Nathan Thompson.
Okay.
My reasoning is because Nathan Thompson at least sometimes comes up with his own nonsense.
Okay, but I'll just say this. Nathan Thompson might be smarter, but also I've been subjected to pictures of Nathan Thompson in his tidy whities, and I've never had that horror inflicted upon me in terms of Kent Hovind.
I would rather see Nathan Thompson in his tidy whities than have to like deal with Kent on any like level, unless it's for money.
I mean, you're literally doing that right now, and I'm not paying you.
I'm dropping our F-bomb. I meant like actually Kent, not Kent on video.
Oh,
I meant like
okay.
you know what I. Yeah.
Even if you get to take the creationist side and he has to argue for the evolution side.
That is the only way I said I would ever debate Kent Hovind.
You know, it's not impossible that I could set that up. That's within the realm of possibility.
Oh, well, I'll make a note.
Okay.
I might have a opportunity there.
TD says that's awful and you need a hug, probably in reference to the Nathan Thompson. Yeah, I do, man.
Yeah, how did that happen? Like, I there's a story here.
there's really not much of a story because he blasted them all over the internet, and then people who are, critical of him meme the hell out of it. And when you exist in a space where you see flat Earth memes, which I do,
how did I miss this?
I don't know, but you should continue to miss it because it's not worth it.
All right, fair enough.
We were just past halfway to the equator, to the North Pole. Okay, sorry, North Pole. There's a huge.
Hey, fun fact, if you're halfway to the North Pole, you're also halfway to the equator, because that's how the math works.
What?
I would like to know, I have a question for Eric. I have a question for Erica at some point. I would like to ask her who she thought was more condescending, Kent or Nathan.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
they're both misogynistic assholes.
Yeah, I would be curious to know what her thoughts are, because I mean she trounced both of them, so obviously and handedly so. But I would just be curious about like how she felt about her interaction, about which one she thinks is worse.
I mean, feel free to ask her.
I would love to ask her that.
We do all play D&D together.
We do. I will get my opportunity.
Section of this planet up around the North Pole that is uninhabitable or certainly extremely sparsely populated.
So it's not uninhabitable, it's hard to farm, and in some places it's not actually all that hard to farm, but also, look, there's a whole lot of like native Siberians and Alaskans and,
Why does it matter if you could all just stand side by side in a small area?
Right? But they managed to get along fine without farming, because it turns out you don't actually need to farm. You can pretty much live off of like fish and seal and occasionally whale meat.
I'm sure at some point Kent will get to explaining how this matters at all to his point.
Well, here's a fun fact. Some Native Americans petitioned the United States government to allow them to continue whaling after whaling was outlawed because it was a traditional thing. And, they were using like steamships and like,
you're cheating.
Pneumatic like harpoons. So the U.S. government was like, yeah, that's okay. As long as you use hand-propelled boats and thrown harpoons. Which was not what any of them wanted, but, Well, it's not. I'm going to say it's not what any of them wanted, because some of them did still want to do, like, their various coming-of-age rituals that involved hunting whales. But, like, they were like, okay, you can, but you can't do the cold commercial thing. So, like that.
And at the South Pole, nobody lives there without incredible outside support structure.
True.
You could not live down there off the land.
That's actually probably true, yeah. There's probably a good reason why there are no long-term human settlements from, like, ancient times like there are in, say, like, Alaska or northern Canada.
Probably why we shouldn't all get in a big pile in Antarctica. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, probably all freeze.
We'd all freeze.
Plus, that's where the Mountains of Madness are, so stay out of Antarctica.
We'll just get in a big pile in the Grand Canyon and we'll all be fine.
I would challenge anybody to do that, okay? You gotta have an airplane come in every once in a while and bring them supplies.
Yes, that's how Antarctica works.
So,
well, it's a boat often.
3% of the Earth is habitable for mankind. The Earth is not...
Oh, here's a fun thing. Essentially, all of the food in Antarctica is past its expiration date. Because it literally can't be shipped there fast enough. So, but it's also kept frozen the entire time, so, like, it's fine.
Not overcrowded today, though, but it sure would have been. Had man been here for millions of years.
No, Kent, it wouldn't.
In Genesis 1, God told Adam and Eve to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. That means fill the earth, have a lot of kids. The Bible says in Isaiah 45, He formed it to be inhabited. Why did God make this place? To fill it up with people. Interesting. The very first command God gave to Adam. First command. Anybody know what that was? Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. The greatest drive he gave to just about every species on the planet is to do exactly that. After the storm comes through here and breaks off half the branches on these pecan trees, you know what they do the next year? They put out incredible numbers of pecans. They're gonna we're gonna be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth.
We're talking about this now? Oh my god.
I don't know, but okay, here's the thing.
Oh, who did those pecan trees marry?
That's true. Who did they marry? But also, this reminds me of a nice local New Mexican pecan beer that I had. And I wish I had more of it because it was really, really, really good. And now I just want some pecan beer. And thanks, Kent.
I want some to drown my sorrows.
I mean, You're just drinking tea, huh? You probably should have been putting some whiskey in there.
I did have some. I don't have any whiskey. I did have some ginger ale, but there is not.
Is there any
I
like
only have.
rum
I
in
only have a
there?
little. No, I only have a little bit of Kraken left, and it's not enough to be able to
You failed at
justify
one of the
using it for
basic
this.
parts of Kent with Bent.
I did because I ran out because I drank a little bit.
You had
yesterday.
all day to get to the store.
I took a day off
Yeah,
and
that's when you go to the
drank
store.
a little bit, and I'm going grocery shopping after this, so at least I have something to look forward to.
All right, well, buy some more rum while you do it.
I probably will do.
Do they have booze in the
Actually,
in the stores
that
there?
will be no. The liquor store is closed already. So
Oh,
later, but
see, that's one of the nice things
might
about this
have
area is we have liquor in the grocery
wine.
store.
So there's a couple of places that have liquor in stores now. So like if I go all the way to like a supermart, Walmart, I can pick up some beer, and some grocery stores have like a wine rack area.
Okay.
They have started to open up legislation a little bit further to allow grocery stores to apply to be able to sell liquor,
Liquor licenses.
sorry, not liquor, beer. There's
Oh,
no
okay.
liquor yet, so far as I know. Coolers, yes. Beer, yes. Hard liquor, not yet, as far as I know.
We'll get there, everybody. We'll get there.
Canada's a little bit behind the times on that kind of stuff, mostly because the government is the one that distributes all the beer and all the liquor and gets all the tax for it, unless you're like
Canada
a
just doesn't have
beer.
freedom. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to.
Something like that.
I say
Communism.
that like I say that like it's also not the case that huge swaths of the USA also don't allow liquor sales in grocery stores. Which is
I mean, there's a couple of places, and depending on where you go in Canada, that changes too, right? So, like,
Yeah.
in Quebec and out east, and it's mostly just Ontario has a lot more restrictions. So you can get like beer at a convenience store, stuff like that.
All right.
And just about the greatest drive every species has is that drive to be fruitful, multiply, to fulfill God's command.
Yeah, because if you didn't, then the species wouldn't exist, which kind of makes sense in terms of evolution.
Along with eating and sleeping.
Right.
So even
Having
all
the
the
sex.
perverts in the world, even the Bill Clintons and the Hugh
What?
Hefners and the Playboy crowd, they're going to give glory to God on Judgment Day because their very wicked lifestyle is proof God's God.
Okay.
Every time
Okay.
every time you fap to Playboy, you're giving glory to God. Thank you, Kento.
Okay, I'm going to first take a drink, but we're going to start wrapping up on that one because don't know where to go with that.
This is getting filed right into my more proof that God is a furry.
Okay. Yeah, I have.
Kent is worse than Grandpa Joe by 91%.
Yeah, Kent apparently is worse than Grandpa. Yeah, okay. With 35 votes. Okay.
At least Grandpa Joe didn't like beat his wife.
We don't know that. He didn't in the book/movie.
There's no evidence that he did so.
That's true.
You can't say the same thing about Kent.
Yeah, there's ample evidence that he beat body slammed his wife. Which, by the way, I heard that audio again because I rewatched one of the Weakness of Kent Hovind documentary episodes. Man, the first time I heard that audio was after Kent linked it in Bent Hovind's comments for one of his videos where he basically just did an unrehearsed reaction to Kent Hovind talking about the drowning on his property. And Kent just jumped into those comments and was like, hey, here's audio of me abusing Cindy Lincoln. He didn't say that, but that's what he did.
But he said it was basically like, listen to how crazy she sounds.
Yeah, and then both
listen to it and
Ian
like,
and I
oh
listened
no,
and we're
that's
like,
not
yeah,
what that sounds like at all.
Wow, imagine somebody being upset that they're being attacked.
Right.
Weird.
But that was before I ever talked to Cindy, and now that we're friends and we chat and I call her up every once in a while just to see how she's doing, not for any not to argue about some stupid science thing, just like, hey Cindy, how's it going? And then she'll tell me how she's doing, and she's like, oh, how you doing? And we just have a chat about how the day is going.
Is she calls him and it's like a 4-hour conversation on the phone.
Sometimes I call her and it's a 4-hour conversation on the phone.
It's a long.
It's often very long, but anyway. Now that I'm friends with her like that, listening to it over again, it's so much worse. It was never a fun listen, but when that's someone when it's someone you consider a friend, someone you care about, it just gets worse. So I'm going to use our one F-bomb. Fuck Kent.
Yeah.
There you go. I think this is the first time that Chesh has been on, and I used it, and she didn't.
It wasn't me. I almost did.
Did.
I almost did,
I
but
haven't used
all right, so let's take a look ahead at what's happening. Chesh, what do you got coming out? What's your...
I have a unfortunate stream coming up tomorrow. So
Yeah.
if you guys are interested in the nonsense that's been going on, or you want to hear what the some people who are in the moderator cult that's been going around actually have to say on the matter, that's what's happening on Wednesday. I'm not going to go too much into detail about that. I was on the Drunken Peasants, and that was actually, you know, I was really nervous. It's just the first time I think I've ever been nervous going on to like their show. But they were wonderful to me, and you know, it was fun where it was fun, and it was
You didn't seem nervous.
Okay.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, you didn't. Also,
You kept saying you were, but you didn't.
I have a question. We do have a game tomorrow.
We do have a game tomorrow.
Is the plan that's gonna... Am I gonna have to run your character again for a little bit?
You might have to, yeah, because I gotta get this done.
Fair enough.
And off the plate, so we never have to talk about it again with any luck. That's the plan. Okay. I also have.
Do you need me to be on that stream? Because I was in that call.
If you would like to be, you are invited. Yes.
I may be there for some of it.
Yes, if you decide to, fantastic. There is no pressure. Nobody is required to be there. Okay. I also have some super secret plans that are in the works that I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy. So go find me on some kind of social media, either on YouTube or on Twitter, to find out what is going on when that gets announced. But other than that, it's a super secret right now, so you don't get to know.
Okay, Bent, sorry. Hey, that's horrible of me.
No relation.
Bent, no relation.
What's going on now? No, yeah, there's D&D.
Yes, not
That's
this
what
week.
I'll plug.
Next week.
That's what I'll plug.
Okay. Let's see. So today's the 8th. So, also coming out tomorrow is Dan Stern Cardinal, Creation Myths, part 3 of Busting Dismantled. Like I said, I have a game tomorrow, so I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be in the live chat for the premiere, but that is coming out tomorrow. The next episode will be back on my channel, but this Thursday, the final bit about Revenge of the Biddle should be coming out, which is Dan Biddle is mean to Homo habilis. That's already scheduled for a premiere on Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Saturday, at that same time, I should be having a Leaving Young Earth Creationism. And then the 15th, as well as the 22nd, will both end up being Jackson with Jackson, because as a result of a number of things, including finals, Maddie is just a bit swamped, and so she didn't want to cancel any D&D, so we are still planning on having D&D on the 16th, but she's not going to be here for with Maddie on the 15th, so instead we're going to double up on Jackson with Jackson. So we'll get Jackson with Jackson on the 15th and the 22nd, and then on the 29th we should be back for more Kent with Bent. I don't want to look forward to like the 19th or the 26th in terms of Tuesday stuff, so you know, that's whatever. Other than that, do please consider the Patreon. I would really like to get it up to that 400 mark. As a result of today, me having a new pledge, I am currently just a bit closer. We're currently at 276, so we need 124 in additional pledges. So even if it's just $1, it really helps out, especially since income from YouTube can fluctuate wildly. So, yep. And you know, I'm using this to help keep the channel going. I am doing less stuff outside of a lot less stuff outside of YouTube to bring in money, because I'm trying to dedicate as much time as I can to making the channel work. And like I said, I don't want to have to cut back on the channel if I don't have to. So please do give to that if you can. Like I said, there's a 10% discount if you decide to go with an annual pledge. Carrie Bronson says, for $5, slept through everything, have a contribution in lieu of dumb commentary. Thanks for all you do. Thank you very much, Carrie. I really appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, please do consider that. Links in the description, and it's going to be mentioned in the credits. And I'm going to keep mentioning it for a while, because if I can get to that point, it will really make the channel a much more secure thing, so that I can keep dedicating as much time as I possibly can to the channel to make sure that you guys keep getting new content that there's always stuff for, you know, uploads for streams, as well as, you know, like collaborations with like Erica, Cheshire Vic, Dan Sturden Cardinal, Evidence and Reason, Sal, even. Like, you know, all that stuff is dependent on me being able to actually dedicate time. So, and hey,
Yay!
Time is money, which means money is time. So every donation buys me time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. All right, thanks everybody. Here are some end credits where once again I will tell you about ways to support the channel.
Bye!
Thanks for watching this video, but before you go, I'd like to take a minute to thank my channel, especially Ian Chen, John Ackerman, Chris Love, Landon Knoll, Sphincter of Doom, and Patrick Dennis. Without the help of the people whose name you see on screen right now, this channel simply wouldn't exist. If you'd like to join the team, there's links in the description to my Patreon, as well as a join button right below this video that will allow you to join on YouTube. Joining gets you access to an exclusive Discord server, early access to my videos, often more than a month in advance, as well as other perks depending on how much you decide to pledge. However, if a monthly or annual pledge isn't for you, there are other ways to support the channel, including a merch store down in the description, and hey, just liking and sharing this video always helps a lot. Thank you very much. I'm the Dapper Dinosaur.